The Federal Bureau of Investigation. The name itself sounds so solid, so reassuring. These are the people who chase bank robbers and stop spies, right? The heroes in dark suits who always get their man. That's the brand, anyway. A very successful brand, cultivated over a century of excellent public relations. But behind the press releases and the Hollywood myth-making is a slightly more complicated history. A history where investigation sometimes looked a lot like intimidation, and protecting America occasionally meant trampling all over American rights. It turns out that when you give an agency immense power and very little oversight, they tend to get creative. Their history isn't a clean record of wins. It's a chaotic scrapbook of triumphs, blunders, and moments that make you wonder who exactly was watching the watchers.
Our story begins right after World War I, during the first Red Scare. America was gripped by a fear of communists, anarchists, and anyone with a foreign-sounding name. Enter Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer. After his house was bombed, he took it, let's say, personally. He launched the Palmer Raids, a nationwide campaign to round up suspected radicals. And who was put in charge of the intelligence gathering for this operation? A fiercely ambitious 24-year-old named J. Edgar Hoover. He compiled lists of thousands of people, often based on nothing more than their subscriptions to certain magazines or attendance at union meetings. Over 10,000 people were arrested without warrants, many were beaten, and hundreds were deported. It was a spectacular debut for Hoover, teaching him the valuable lesson that fear is a fantastic tool for expanding your budget and ignoring that pesky document called the Constitution.
J. Edgar Hoover wasn't just the FBI's director. For 48 years, he was the FBI. The man outlasted 8 presidents, partly because he was good at his job, but mostly because he was brilliant at collecting secrets. He maintained a vast system of official and confidential files, separate from the main FBI records. This was his personal stash of dirt on politicians, celebrities, and anyone who might ever pose a threat to him or his bureau. Need a bigger budget? A friendly chat with a congressman about rumors you've heard could certainly help. Concerned about a president appointing a new director? Perhaps a gentle reminder of some youthful indiscretions would change his mind. He cultivated an image of the FBI as an incorruptible force of G-men, while privately wielding information like a weapon. He wasn't just a lawman, he was the most powerful information broker in the world, running the nation's top police force like a private kingdom. In 1956, the Bureau formalized its darker impulses into a program with a wonderfully bland name, the Counterintelligence Program, or COINTELPRO. Its stated purpose was to protect national security. Its actual purpose was to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize any group Hoover considered subversive. That word, neutralize, is doing a lot of work there. Initially, the target was the Communist Party USA, which was, by that point, a fairly marginal group. But the definition of subversive proved to be incredibly flexible. Soon, COINTELPRO wasn't just about communists. It was about anyone who questioned the status quo too loudly. The program became a secret, parallel justice system operating entirely in the shadows, with the FBI acting as judge, jury, and occasionally executioner. The beauty of COINTELPRO from the Bureau's perspective was its scalability. The list of targets grew to include an astonishingly diverse collection of Americans. You had the Ku Klux Klan, which seems reasonable enough, But then you also had the Civil Rights Movement, anti-Vietnam War protesters, the Black Panther Party, the American Indian Movement, and even women's liberation groups. The tactics were just as varied. Agents would send anonymous letters to spread paranoia within groups, getting members to distrust each other. They planted false news stories to discredit leaders. They used informants to provoke illegal activity, essentially creating crimes to then prosecute. They even tried to get Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife to believe he was having affairs. It was a full-service operation for destroying social movements from the inside out, all without a single warrant.
Sometimes neutralize meant something far more permanent. The case of Fred Hampton, the 21-year-old chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party, is arguably the darkest chapter of COINTELPRO. Hampton was a charismatic and effective organizer, which, in Hoover's eyes, made him a major threat. The FBI cultivated an informant, William O'Neill, who became Hampton's bodyguard. O'Neill provided the Bureau with a detailed floor plan of Hampton's apartment, specifically marking where his bed was. On December 4, 1969, Chicago police, working with the FBI, raided the apartment before dawn. Hampton was shot and killed in his bed. Another Panther, Mark Clark, was also killed. Initial reports called it a shootout, but ballistics evidence later showed that while police fired nearly 100 rounds, only one shot was fired by the Panthers. The FBI didn't just disrupt the Black Panthers. In this case, they helped orchestrate a state-sanctioned assassination.
Hoover's obsession with Martin Luther King Jr. was a special kind of vindictive. He was utterly convinced King was either a secret communist or a man of such moral depravity that he could be destroyed. The FBI wiretapped his phones, bugged his hotel rooms, and followed his every move. All approved by Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, ironically. They compiled hours of recordings, hoping to catch him in a crime or a compromising position. When they found evidence of extramarital affairs, they weaponized it. The Bureau anonymously mailed a package to King containing some of the recordings and the letter. The letter called him a fraud and an evil, abnormal beast. It ended with the suggestion that there was only one thing left for you to do, implying he should take his own life before the tapes were released. This wasn't law enforcement. This was a taxpayer-funded, high-stakes, personal vendetta. By the 1990s, Hoover was long gone and COINTELPRO was officially history. But the Bureau's capacity for catastrophic overreach remained. Take the siege at Ruby Ridge, Idaho in 1992. It all started with Randy Weaver, a white separatist, failing to appear in court on a charge for selling 2 illegally sawed-off shotguns. Instead of simple surveillance, U.S. Marshals engaged in a fatal shootout that left Weaver's 14-year-old son and a marshal dead. The FBI's elite hostage rescue team was then called in. Their leadership approved special rules of engagement that were later found to be unconstitutional, effectively permitting snipers to shoot any armed adult male on sight. An FBI sniper, following these rules, shot and killed Weaver's wife, Vicky, as she stood in her doorway holding her infant daughter. The 11-day siege ended not with a bang, but with a profound sense of failure and a hard lesson in how minor charges can escalate into a national tragedy. Just a year after Ruby Ridge, the FBI found itself in an even bigger disaster in Waco, Texas. The Bureau took command of a standoff with the Branch Davidians, a religious sect led by David Koresh, after a botched raid by the ATF left people dead on both sides. What followed was a 51-day siege that became a media circus. The FBI's psychological warfare tactics included blasting the compound with sounds of rabbits being slaughtered and Nancy Sinatra songs on a loop, which historically has a low success rate for encouraging peaceful surrender. Finally, on April 19, 1993, the decision was made to end the siege. The FBI used combat engineering vehicles to punch holes in the building and insert tear gas. A few hours later, the compound was engulfed in flames. 76 people inside, including more than 20 children, died. While the origin of the fire is still fiercely debated, the event cemented a public image of a militarized federal agency seemingly incapable of de-escalation. So, from the Palmer raids to Waco, a clear pattern emerges. It's a pattern of an agency often driven by fear of communism, of dissent, of social change, using its immense power in ways that stray far from its mandate. The names and the enemies change, but the impulse to bend or break the rules in the name of national security is a constant thread. Hoover's secret files have been replaced by digital surveillance, and COINTELPRO's dirty tricks have evolved for a new century. The history of the FBI's controversial cases isn't just a collection of old stories, it's a cautionary tale about the permanent tension between security and liberty. It reminds us that oversight isn't just bureaucratic red tape, it's the leash that keeps watchdogs from becoming wolves. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more historical insights. Thanks for watching, nerds!